How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Quarantine. This is from 2008 and is directed by John Erick Dowdle and stars Jennifer Carpenter, Hernandez and Columbus short. I remember when this came out, it did have a fair bit of splash in the horror community. There were people that were talking about it, saying it was pretty scary, encouraging other people to watch it, and it did get passed around a bit. I mean, this was a very early horror movie in the found footage boom, so it's still pretty new. And as it got talked about more and more, I would hear more and more people start to say, hey, did you know this was based on a Spanish found footage horror movie called Remake? And in turn, because this movie came out, a big Hollywood wide release, it would shine a light onto a grade A gold star classic Spanish film that didn't have the biggest initial release. And if there's anything I can thank this movie for, I can thank it for giving the original a lot more exposure. That was really cool, and definitely if you haven't seen it, go check that out. In fact, I actually saw Remake first. To be honest, didn't have a ton of friends and didn't get to go out to the movies too terribly much, but I could always scrounge up some physical media, and I would watch Remake by myself at home, and I realized after all these years, I never actually went back and saw Quarantine, and I do want to see the whole Remake franchise, so I decided to go ahead and pop this one in and see what was up. And it's a strangely similar movie. It keeps a lot of Reke's bones there. So the plot is going to be very similar. Let's just blow through that really quickly. No major spoilers, I won't go too close to the end. But the gist of Quarantine is there's a female reporter and her cameraman. They're doing a show called Night Watch, where they go and they film people who are working while most other people are asleep. This episode is covering firefighters. They're at the station, they see the Dalmatian, and all of a sudden they're called out on a call to this apartment complex where a woman is acting strange. She bites a few people. Turns out they're zombies, and when they try to run away and get out, looks like the government's found out and they quarantine the apartment building. So now you're trapped with the first-person point-of-view camera inside an apartment building as the zombies are starting to break out. It's a really fun concept, and a lot of the cool stuff in this movie is because it does have strong bones with the original Remake storyline. And yeah, it is pretty similar to the point where most of the good stuff in this movie, and this movie is good, but a lot of that does come from that they're copying the original. And I do want to say, when it comes to remakes, that's always a line that you have to wonder about. You want to acknowledge the first, you want to respect it, and you want to make it close enough where it still feels like the same basic story. But when you do something like Psycho, this isn't as close as a Psycho remake was, but when you do something so close, it's like, I do want something different, because why wouldn't I just watch the first one? And I kind of wish, if you had made the apartment building bigger, because maybe it's in a big city, or if you had changed the layout so they would have to run around and take different paths. I mean, it is kind of odd that there's still a textile workshop in the back. That seemed like a very European thing to me. Or maybe, at the very least, you got a bigger budget, use that towards some good, gory zombie special effects. I don't know. But it stays really similar, and the things that they did change, I always felt weren't as good. And I don't know, it's just a remake that I wish they had done more with, because at this point it kind of just seems like an elaborate dub. That's the thing, is whenever you see a really good foreign film, you kind of wish they could just take it and plop it in American theaters, which they are starting to do more and more. I mean, I was able to see Godzilla -1 on the big screen, and that's great because it's probably 2023's best horror film, and you are seeing that more and more. But it is hard to get American audiences to go and see foreign films because, I mean, you either have subtitles at the bottom of the screen and you spend all your time down there reading and not actually watching the movie, or you watch a dub that never quite gets the performance right, you know? So you do have all that, and I guess I can see the technical reason why you would do a remake like this because, yeah, for the most part, it does seem like an elaborate dub, basically. But it's not like it's exactly the same. It's not like it's a perfect one-to-one, because they do change just a little bit. And it gets to be the point where you almost feel like you're a fine wine connoisseur going over the little differences, but it's not that they're too small either, you know, they are there. And again, the movie's not bad, but the differences are there just enough to bug you. I mean, let's just get it out of the way. The cinematography. When you're shooting a regular movie, getting things like shot composition, balancing light and shadows, throwing in a good color grade, that's all good for a normal movie. And when you get people in Hollywood, they're going to want to produce nice, professional, shiny movies. But with found footage, and to be honest, a lot of horror in general, looking better makes you look worse. You want to look grimy and grungy, and in the case of found footage, you want to make it look like this was actually shot on the fly in a real moment. And this really just looks too much like a Hollywood movie. Happening to zoom in and get the right composition, getting everything in frame, it's not as good. And also they do zoom in a little too much. Rec had a more wide camera, and that made it feel more real, because when you're constantly zooming in and getting those compositions, it doesn't feel as much like a point of view. And I think the biggest thing is, when I watched Rec, I felt like I was in the apartment building, but when I watched Quarantine, I felt like I was watching a movie. I also do want to mention, there's a very bad special effect that does really take you out of this, where the cameraman smashes a zombie with his camera and blood flies up on the lens, and the blood is totally just a PNG. And the fact that it's in focus, it really made it look super, super fake, and that bugged me. So yeah, this doesn't feel real. It feels like a 2008 Hollywood horror movie, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people still to this day don't get, is making it look too clean and professional does sacrifice realism, and that is bad in horror, and especially bad in found footage. And also, the characters are a little different as well. For example, the host is played by the sister from the TV show Dexter, and she does a good job. I mean, she's a professional actor, but I recognize her. That doesn't make it feel as real when you say, hey, that's the lady from Dexter. It's best to cast unknowns in found footage movies. But also, she's not as feisty as her Spanish counterpart. The Spanish counterpart was very in your face when it came to, like, say, telling her to have the camera turned off. No, you will not do that. People have the right to know, and I will not let you cover up what you're doing to us. She was much more aggressive and in your face. And also, she was kind of a producer as well, because she would always be talking to the camera and saying, how's my framing? How does this shot look? She was much more professional. And in Quarantine, she's kind of just a bubbly host. Not bad, but not the strong character from the original. And I really do like the original better. And when it comes to all the other actors, they're all doing fine, but they never felt like real people. They all felt like actors doing little characters, and neither version of the movie, the side characters aren't really super, super memorable. But in the original, having people who are good at improv, having some people that legitimately had the jobs, that they were portraying, you know, real firefighters, the main girl being a real TV host. It did feel a lot more real and naturalistic, and they felt much more like real people. And in the other one, they felt more like characters. And I think that's the big things. You know, they do change a few things. I won't spoil what it is, but the ending has a little bit of differences to it. But overall, though, it's pretty much the same bones, the same basic layout, a lot of the same stuff. They don't change and do anything interesting and unique with it. The cinematography is way too clean, and they don't feel like real people. They feel like characters. And in turn, it just doesn't have that raw and real feeling that Rec does. It still has the same story, it still has the same basic structure, so it's not a bad movie. It's just a not as good movie. And I think, you know, they always say with remakes, is if you never had the original, what would you think of it? And we kind of get to know that with this one, because a lot of Americans didn't know about Rec when Quarantine came out, and a lot of people, if they saw it in the theater at the time, do remember it pretty fondly. It didn't stick around as much as The Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity, but a lot of people who remember Quarantine and saw it in the theater initially thought it was a perfectly fun horror movie, and it really is, and I don't want to drag on it too much. It's a totally fine watch, but if you're given the option between Quarantine and Rec, 100% go with Rec. The only people that I would recommend seeing this are the people that are, like me, the completionists that want to kind of watch everything, and, you know, hey, there's a remake of this movie you like, I gotta check it out, and I'm working my way through all the Rec movies, and I'm like, hey, I'll see what's up, and it is kind of interesting in that regards. And if you're fans of the lead actress, I know Jennifer Carpenter has some fans, and if you're one of those people that just can't do subs or dubs and, you know, wants to watch a movie that's not translated, I guess go ahead, and it's better than nothing, so go ahead and watch this one. But the thing is it doesn't change enough, and it's not as good. So legitimately, if given the two options, Rec all the way, even though this isn't that bad, you know? Yeah. So overall, it's okay for what it is. I just kind of wish it had been better, but still, it's fine. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my, how about my remakes playlist? I've talked about quite a few of those. So if you want to see more, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.